Hi guys, my name is Rimbi. I'm a final year medical student, and today I thought I would do a video about graduates applying for undergraduate medicine and funding relating to all of that. So, if you may or may not know, I studied midwifery before I studied medicine, which I'm currently studying. So when you have a degree before, the funding is a little bit different from, let's say, if it's your first degree and you just apply for student finance and everything is great, everything is beautiful, everything is dandy, you don't have to worry about your tuition fees up front. So because I'd done a degree before, and because my degree was in midwifery, which was a free NHS degree, I was like, right, okay, student finance hasn't paid for any of my degrees. They're going to pay for medicine. It's going to be great. It's going to be fantastic. I won't have to pay for anything because student finance have never had to pay for any of my degrees, right? So come now, I start medicine, I get my place, and I'm like to student finance, right? You guys are gonna pay my tuition fees, right? Because you haven't paid any of my tuition fees before. And they said, well, no, as long as you are a graduate doing an undergraduate course, which is medicine. If I was doing a master's or, next level up from undergraduate, there would have been some funding available. But because I was a graduate doing another undergraduate course, irrespective of whether or not they had paid for my first one, there was no kind of tuition fee support available, which is a bit of a shocker. So that's a heads up for anyone who's a graduate applying for medicine that maybe is a graduate in something that they thought that they paid for themselves, that student finance did not support them with paying. So then they thought they could use the student finance that they didn't use in their first degree to medicine as a second degree. Unfortunately, that's not the case. So then you have to really think about, I paid £9,000 a year, final year for me, luckily NHS funded, so the NHS pays my tuition fees this year, but that differs for whether you're NHS England, NHS Scotland, NHS Wales, NHS Northern Ireland. Like depending on which NHS you're in, the rules are slightly different, because there's people in my course that are graduates but would be under NHS Northern Ireland, and their tuition fees for final year isn't paid for, so it's something you have to think about. But their tuition fees are also cheaper. But let's not go there. So I pay £9,000 a year previous to the final year. I think the years below, maybe not the year directly below, but the people in third year now, I think pay 9,250 a year, and that's a lot of money. Like irrespective of who you are, what you do, whether you're wealthy, not wealthy, whatever, £9,250 is a huge chunk of money. You could do a lot of other things with that. And when you multiply that by 4 or by 5, depending on whether or not you're eligible to pay for the NHS will cover you, with the bursary. That is a ton of money. So if you're a graduate applying, that's something that's really important to think about before you apply. Think about, right, okay, can I afford £9,250 a year? Can I then, on top of that £9,250 a year, afford living? Like, where am I going to live? Is there going to be a roof over my head? How am I going to pay rent? Or, if I'm living in halls, how am I going to pay for that? That's something to consider. How am I going to pay for food? Because you can't eat air. So where's that money going to come from? How am I going to pay for that? And also, medicine has so many hidden costs. Me and my friends talk a lot about, for example, after third year or from third year in our course, if you don't have a car, life is difficult. Like some of the GP placements are in the middle of nowhere. And it's like, yeah, that's great. They'll pay for a B&B, but how do you get to the B&B in the middle of nowhere? So there's lots of little hidden costs that you have to factor for. I mean, these days we're really lucky, you don't necessarily have to buy books because you can access them from the library or the BMA library, which I'm a huge fan of, and I always say this, but there is other hidden costs in medicine, and just costs of enjoyment. You want to also have fun. These are, this is a huge half a decade of your life. You don't want to just be sad and not going out, not enjoying yourself. So these are costs that you have to think about. The good thing about uni in the UK is once you start, irrespective of if the cost of the degree changes, but once you've started, you will never be charged more than what you agreed to at the beginning. So for example, I pay £9,000 a year, the people below us pay 9,250. If they decided to change and say, okay, now tuition fees is going to be 10,000 a year, it will only be the people starting that year in first year who will be charged that much. So you can kind of think in advance of, okay, this is how much my whole degree is going to cost. How can I start to cover that sum? Really, advice-wise, in terms of things to think about is scholarships. There's a BMA type scholarship which you can apply for if you're a graduate with enough debt. There's a process for that. There's the Leather Seller Company scholarship, I think. Just Google that and see. You need to be way early. You need to be way ahead of the game with this, because most of them, the application process is like 7 months before the money will be awarded. So you really need to be actively looking for these opportunities. Are there any essay competitions you can enter? If you have a spare like 5 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours, whatever, throughout a week or throughout a couple of weeks, and you want to write an essay for a prize of £200, £300, some essay competitions prizes are up to like £500, depending on what society it's with. Just write a little essay, enter it. If you win, you win. If you win and you win the money, that's fantastic. But you can also then use that on your CV and be like, hey, I entered an essay competition, I won, So that's quite a useful thing to do. Other things you have to think about, like not everyone has family support, because I feel like as a young person, if you're a graduate, let's say you're 21, 22, whatever, if you don't have family support and don't have like a job that pays a lot of money where you can earn enough to pay your tuition fees, it is really, really difficult. So I just implore everyone to think, if you are applying for graduate entry medicine, where is the money gonna come from? If family is able to cover that for you, that's phenomenal. Part-time jobs, I work as a midwife, you guys know this, and I worked quite a bit and I worked quite a lot, but my time management is good because I've managed to be able to balance my studies and also have a good time. Like, it's not like I don't go out or I don't do stuff with my friends. I still do stuff like that, but not everyone's time management is the same, and not everyone has I really enjoy my job as a midwife, so I love going. Whereas if your part-time job is working in Tesco, for example, you might not enjoy it, and the financial reward, so I would hope that someone working in just basic doing Tesco stuff doesn't earn as much as a midwife. That would be the hope. So for me, I feel like my time, it's worth my time, because one, I'm enjoying it and I'm getting financially rewarded adequately for my time, if that makes sense. So that's what I would say about part-time jobs. But just be careful. You don't want to overstretch yourself. You don't want to tip the balance where you're working so much that now you're not studying and then it impacts your exams, and then yes, hardship funds. Most universities would have some type of hardship fund, so please do look into that. If you feel like, okay, I'm trying but it's not quite working out, I'm really behind on money for some reason, can't pay my rent, whatever it is, definitely look into things like hardship funds from your uni. I feel like I've spoken a lot, but have I said anything useful? I don't know. Basically, the moral of the story, the reason why I wanted to do this video is I know a lot of people on Instagram that follow me, actually people that are looking to apply to medicine and that are graduates. So it's just a bit of like, in and part of the application process, think about the finances and how you're going to fund that degree. Whether for the 4-year course, I think the NHS pays for 2 of the 4 years. I'm not certain. I'm on a 5-year course. I'm on an undergraduate course, so I can only speak from my own personal experience. But yeah, that's why I thought, let me sit down and do this video, just to get the people that are graduates that are thinking about applying for medicine, thinking about applying for an undergraduate course, thinking about, okay, so how am I gonna fund this? Where's the moolah gonna come from? Do I need to start saving up now? Even if you've, not got any interviews yet, you can start saving, because the more you've got saved up, the easier it is when you start. It takes a little bit of pressure off. My uni lets you pay your tuition fees in like installments, like in direct debit installments. I think it was over 3 payments that they would let you split it. I don't think they did like monthly payments or anything. But that's also something to consider, is that you don't need to have all of the money at the start of the course. You can have a saved up chunk, get that at the beginning, and then throughout the time apply for scholarships, maybe enter some prizes, do little jobs here and there, save up a bit, and then you give the next direct debit 3 months or 4 months later, and so forth and so on. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you've made it all the way to the end, please do be sure to subscribe. Follow me on Instagram at Rimby the Medic, and let me know what videos you want to see from me. Let me know, message me on Instagram or in the comments below. But yes, thank you very much, and see you in my next one. Bye.